And thank you for pulling together such a strong event with a fantastic set of panelists and a very distinguished cast of people attending as well. I'm sorry not to be able to make more of it. I had to go and take part in a debate, but I will make sure that we do try and capture. I know you're recording this, a whole bunch of the insights, because you do have fantastic lineup and fantastic discussion, clearly. So I hope that this will be the start of a conversation anyway, rather than the end of it. And my role in coming is really just to give a bit of an overview of both where we've got to in our thinking, and also some of the kind of outstanding questions that we are certainly grappling with at the moment, because no social sciences conference should end without more questions being generated. So we have a white paper out towards the end of this year on levelling up. But we've also just created the new Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. And so that tells you something about the permanence of this effort, because we know that permanence is crucial to getting anywhere on this. And the white paper is an important milestone in that journey, but it's not the end of it. Let me start from the very top. Obviously, the debates about sort of economic imbalances in this country are not new. They've been going on for a century or more. How have things changed in the last couple of years? I suppose there is more of a sense now, I think more of a consensus that some of the gaps in economic performance around the UK, some of the gaps in opportunity are bigger in the UK than they are in some comparable countries. I suppose that would be a bit of a change. I think there's more of Phil McCann would be a sort of a person whose work I'd point to there as particularly highlighting that. There's more of an acknowledgement, I think, now about the limits of mobility alone as a solution. Clearly, it's an important part of what we need, and for a lot of people, mobility will be crucial to getting a better life. But particularly for lower qualified people, there are limits to that for a lot of people who can't move away from their family support network or from their community for various different reasons. I think there is a bit more clarity now about the risk that government can itself contribute to some of these problems. Ron Martin's work at the moment, looking at the relatively small scale of conscious levelling up or conscious regional policy over the years in the grand scheme of government spending, I think is good on this. And the danger is that you have a kind of a small regional policy over here, and yet you're making decisions in the mainstream of government spending, the bigger budgets, which completely outweigh that small regional spend, because they set up kind of Matthew effect type of things, that your transport spending or your housing and regeneration spending or your R&D spending follows existing strengths or follows existing patterns of congestion and existing high house prices. PM talked a bit about that Matthew effect in his speech in the summer, and that's drawing again on the work of people like Diane Coyle and Marianne Sensia. So that's another change, I think, in the debate, and I think a bit more of just a sense that there is a missed opportunity here. That, you know, if you have an economy where parts of it are overheating, you can't get on the train, you can't afford a house, and yet there's parts of it where the physical capital is underused. If you have, you know, a lack of labour market matching, that, you know, there's an opportunity. If you could bring some of those opportunities a bit closer to people, not necessarily right to their doorstep, but a bit closer to people, then more people would be able to make the most of themselves and match their skills to trade up to higher levels of opportunity. So I think there have been some changes in the debate over the last couple of years, and in terms of how our levelling up agenda is responding to that, well, it's worth saying also what levelling up is not about, as well as what it is. So it's not just about kind of north and south, which is a sort of characterization you get in the video. There's a recognition there, absolutely, that there are poor places within rich regions, and there are poor wards within rich local authorities even. But nonetheless, one can't get away also from a sense that there is a broad spatial pattern to the UK of very high levels and growth of incomes in and around London, and broadly the belt around it, the home counties, tailing away to lower levels of income down at the far end of the southwest in Wales, and particularly the kind of more urban areas of the North and Midlands, and obviously much lower living standards in places like Northern Ireland and some absolutely not all, some parts of Scotland around Glasgow. So there is a spatial story, but we are alive to the variations within that, not approaching it in a kind of crude way. There are 4 bits of levelling up, and each of them, there are things that we are doing things on, but there are also some kind of outstanding questions, which I'd love the views of people taking part in this conference on. So there are 4 bits to it. There's, broadly speaking, the empowering kind of local leaders and local communities is the first bit. The second bit is about raising living standards and growing particularly the private sector, particularly where it's weak. The third bit is about spreading opportunity, improving public services, particularly where they're weaker, recognizing the connection between health problems and economic problems, between educational underachievement compared to people's potential and economic problems as well. And then fourth and finally, there is a certain the kind of je ne sais quoi factor, which is about kind of local pride, the sense of community, the physical environment. Is it a nice place? That kind of chunk of it. And things happening on all 4 of those. So in terms of local empowerment, obviously we now have city devolution deals, mayoral combined authorities covering 40% of England's population, 50% of England's GVA. We also have city and growth deals covering all of Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and we can potentially deepen those devolution deals. There's lots of places that have ideas about how we might do that, and we've already discussed in this conference some of these issues. We can also, through those devolution deals and the expansion of them to widen out through the county deals process to more places, we can hopefully pick up this point about the fragmentation of funding pots, which Jürgen was just alluding to. If you're a local authority leader, there are something like 140 different funding streams that can potentially flow through your authority from the centre. Bob Kerslake, who's on the call, is a great expert on all of these things. But there is a challenge to defragment these things, to make them more flexible, to stop things coming in and out so quickly, so that places can pursue a genuine kind of long-term strategy with multi-year certainty. And things we've done recently, like the city region sustainable transport settlements, are a step in that direction towards a single pot for transport for those bigger cities. But of course, there's a last bit about local empowerment, which is not about kind of big local government stuff, but which is also about the kind of the lower level of civic society. Sort of parish councils are a sort of term of mirth in the UK, but for quite a lot of people, they are their kind of first experience of democracy, and they're kind of like the most direct experience of it, and their ability to get things done that they care about. There's a whole tier of kind of work that we're exploring about civic society and the kind of bridging and bonding capital and all the things that we can do to try and strengthen civic society to try and address some of these issues. In terms of raising living standards, there's lots of things we are doing in terms of tax measures, super deduction, free ports and so on. There's stuff about access to finance. We're expanding the work of the British Business Bank, trying to make sure we can get inward investment into every part of the UK through things like the new Global Britain Investment Fund. And I think there's big questions for all of us, including the people on this call, about how we reshape some of that, what I would call kind of growth enhancing spending, our R&D spending, our housing and regeneration money, transport spending. How do we change the way that we go about allocating that so that it drives levelling up, and how do we create more kind of defragmented budgets and more multi-year certainty? And then in the kind of domain, the third thing I was talking about spreading opportunity. Obviously, we've been steadily building up what we're doing, trying to build a stronger technical system, bringing in the T levels with about a quarter more spending, a lot more time in the workplace, trying to get more people being able to retrain through the free level 3 offer, so you can go back and get A-level equivalents if you don't have them. The lifelong learning entitlement is to come, trying to get more high quality apprenticeships and so on. And I think one question that we're grappling with is about how you get more employer involvement in that, and how we build on the successes of devolution so far. So I think some of the combined authorities, particularly West Midlands, have done really impressive things about reshaping those budgets through devolution. In schools, we've had the structural reforms. We now have some good multi-academy trusts that are really managing to replicate success, but how do you get them to come out of the places like London, where they've got strong financial backing from both the funding formula and also external people, and get them growing in some of those places that need school improvement the most. And then in terms of health, there's huge questions for us. We have these big national programs, the 50,000 extra nurses, 40 new and refurbished hospitals, and so on. And the announcements recently of the new community diagnostic hubs. How do we do more innovative stuff on prevention? How do we focus it in a way that it helps us to tackle some of those huge gaps in healthy life expectancy that we've been talking about in this conversation? And then last but not least, all these things about empowerment and lead on to a conversation about kind of regeneration. How do we build on the funding streams we've got for regeneration, brownfield, and so on? High Streets Fund, the Towns Fund, and so on. How do you build on those things, and as well as money, provide the powers that local authorities need to undertake really an epic challenge, which is, every single town centre and city centre in the country is facing a complete transformation from the rise of online shopping because of the way we're all doing things differently now. How do they, reshape those places so that they're places to live, to work, and to enjoy yourself, as well as just places to shop? How do we build on some of the more locally led things that we've done in terms of crime and antisocial behaviour to give communities the tools they need to tackle those problems? So look, on all four of these different parts of the agenda, there are huge questions. And one of my goals in coming to this today was really to make contact with you and to say that I'm very easy to find online, and my contact details are easy to get hold of. If people are doing interesting pieces of work on all these different things, I'd love to hear about them. We're extremely keen to build on your insights, recognizing, the scale of the challenges on these things, very long-lasting major problems, huge tectonic forces that have been acting against us, and also the lack of knowledge in a lot of these different fields about exactly what the right solution is. It's not just a political challenge, there's a genuine question about what is the right answer in some of them. So I'm very keen to engage with all people who are involved in this event today. I'm really honoured to be asked to take part in it. I hope I've given you some sort of sense of the sorts of things that we're interested in. It's a big, quite expansive agenda. It's hugely important to the Prime Minister. So all of the people on this call who are doing work on it, your work is hugely important to us. So I hope that we can build up a dialogue from this and go forward from the work you've been doing today to have an ongoing conversation, and so we can harvest the benefits of all the work that you're doing. So thank you very much for having me.